Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, hey, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
And thank you, Jess. I am just amazed at how you managed to do that exactly the same way in that same room time after time. It's really remarkable. So, hey, everyone, and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. Today, we are talking about the crucial topic of securing IT with identity and access management tools. I want to start by saying a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. We have got a spectacular event that features experts from Keeper Security and Rubrik, and a hearty hello to Anil and Thomas and Venkat and gang and Mortiza, Jeffrey, John from all over the place, Michigan and Illinois and California and all over the globe, Texas, St. Louis. So thank you so much for being here with us today. It is great to see everyone. As you might have guessed by now, or maybe not, because you've never heard me before, I am Keith Ward with Actual Tech Media, and I am looking forward to being your moderator for this EcoCast. Now, the other team members are Jess Steinbach, who welcomed you here today, along with Mackenzie Pudici and Scott Becker. So, along with listening to me today, 3 of you will be leaving this event $300 richer in the form of Amazon gift cards. We will be awarding those after each session today. And as Jess mentioned at the beginning, you do have to be present for the entire event to be eligible to win the gift card. And now that I have your attention by talking about the prizes, let's kick this off with a great keynote from Evgeny Karam. Evgeny is a longtime industry veteran and co-founder of the Security Architecture podcast. He will be laying the groundwork for why identity and access management has become front and center for keeping operations secure in the present day. Evgeny, we are ready, so I'm going to hand things over to you right now.
Hello, everyone. Very, very happy to be here today and very happy to talk about this important topic, identity access management. I think identity is fundamental today. We really need to understand who are we protecting, how we're protecting, and what's happening actually right now to make sure it's all relevant. I'm going to start with something that's not identity related, but we'll quickly jump to identity. I want to go back in history and talk about firewalls. 20 years ago, when we had the original firewalls, not next gen, what they call statehood firewalls, the firewalls used to have a policy based on source destination, still like that. But during this time, our source was network or host. We didn't use identity. And it was quite make sense because we were in the office, stationary in one location, mainly working with desktops. Right now, we work with laptops, we are everywhere, so we need to change how we protect people. With next generation firewall, and I think in my mind, it was a very pivotal role, we realized that we can now create rules based on who we are and not just from which device, host, network we are coming. Along the side of SSL inspection, application control, I think this is a very important part that next generation firewalls brought. What does it actually mean? It's mean in the past, before, we had rules based on IP, subnet. Right now, we're creating rules on base who you are. And you can see here, we use authenticated user, not just a user, not just a person, not just identity. It's actually somebody that's able to authenticate it and prove who they are. We'll talk later about MFA and single sign-on because I think it's fundamental as well. So identity has many different things that it's encompassing there. I can create rules, as I mentioned, by identity. I can have a much strict access, what we call zero trust networks, the entire idea of zero trust framework, ZTNA, where we only allow you access to where you're going. And I think identity is fundamental there. The rule-based, whatever it is, can now follow the user. It could be in the office on multiple floors. It could be when you're going home or going anywhere. We, as mentioned, can now do MFA to understand who you are. And using all this, we can create conditions where you can log in, cannot log in, from which device you can log in, and much, much more. Very applicable for users in the company and also for part-time contractors as well. So this is a very, very busy slide, but it describes quite a modern architecture in many things. If you ever hear me speak about SASE and SSE, you probably saw this slide in advance. But we have here many different security controls like Security Web Gateway, Firewall, IPS, IDS, CASB, ZTNA, DLP, that in the end, all based on your identity, because you need to understand who you are. You can see here on the bottom, it could be BYD, bring your own device, or corporate device as well. So it's very important to understand who you are and how to create users. But identity is not stopping there. I do want to show a slide about different domains of identity. I just mentioned privileged identity management. We also have PAM, privileged access management, and it's all talking about not just your identity, but also privileged IDs. What do we do with admins, roots, and all these other IDs that we're not using them day by day? How do we secure them? Where we store them? How we provide access, secure access, monitoring them as well. I'm not going to dive deep right now in this part. Some people after me probably will, but we'll talk more about the IAM part and actually how we authenticate. Probably not a mystery. We all ideally move from just authentication to two-factor authentication at least, and maybe even more. I'm just going to do a quick recap if you're not familiar. In the past, we used a password. We basically put a username, put a password, and unfortunately, many people reuse passwords between Facebook's, banks, and work. So if the password got stolen in one place, we can now use it in a different place. With 2FA, we're going to have another factor. It could be on your phone, it could be a card, or could be something else to understand who you are. So even if your password got stolen, you can still use it, but definitely not stopping there. We can add another step, what you call multi-factor authentication, when I can add a biometric part or something else to even more prove who you are. I do want to go and talk quickly about different parts, how we can authenticate. As I mentioned, it could be hardware token, it could be software token on your phone, it could be push. So for example, you're going somewhere and you have a push on your device where you log in. Many banks use SMS. I think it's not the best because of SMS swapping and other things. Hope it's going to move. Or OTP. It's became quite popular. You log into a new application. Instead of putting a password, you get email with the OTP, with one-time password. You put the password there and you log in. Biometric, quite important and quite popular to use as well. I can use my finger, I can use my eyes, my face, and many other different things. So if you take all this into account, it's become our multi-factor authentication. And this is how we prove who we are. And after we prove who we are, then we can create a rule base, as I mentioned, based on us. So it's a layered authentication. But I don't want to stop there. We can do more. We can do adaptive authentication. And why it's beautiful? Because I don't need to harass the user, if I can say this, to visit several steps. If we understand you're coming from the same location, from the same device, then we maybe don't need to ask you all those questions and we'll allow you to get in. But if you're traveling right now or you're logging in from an unfamiliar country, then in this case, we'll actually give another factor authentication. This way, adaptive authentication and risk-based authentication became quite popular because they make our life a bit easier. And the last one I want to talk today is where we're slowly going is passwordless authentication. It takes into account many other things like adaptive authentication or biometrics to just understand, okay, we know it's you, you know you're coming from this phone, we know how you type, we're going to just let you log in. I'm going to stop right there because we can talk for a very long time and let other people that are much better than me to go deeper on many other topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Evgeny. Hey, great presentation. Very comprehensive in a short period of time. The right kind of keynote, I think. Really good stuff. So now we've got the first poll question of the day up here. Let us know what your time frame is for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company. Is it happening immediately? Is it happening long range? Or do you just have no idea when it's going to be happening? So let us know and keep voting here. This is important feedback for us to have. It is really helpful and useful, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. So keep those answers coming. Right now, the greatest number of votes is from folks who are just not sure when it's going to be happening. So that's typically, what we see more than anything else. So an interesting answer there. And plenty of you still are right in the middle of stuff and are getting ready to kick off other things. So once again, thank you so much for voting in that. And leave it up here for another second here while we get ready for our first presentation of the EcoCast. And this one comes from Keeper. And presenting for Keeper today is Travis Griffith. He is a solutions engineer. Travis, I want to thank you for being here today. It is great to see you. I'm going to now turn this over to you. You have the floor, sir.
Hello and welcome to this presentation of the Keeper cybersecurity platform. We want to make the best use of your time today, so I'm just going to speak at a high level. We'll be covering the Enterprise Password Manager, Keeper Secrets Manager, and Connections Manager components. So let's go ahead and get started. When you first deploy Keeper Security, you'll log into the admin console. In this console, you can provision users fully automated, connect your single sign-on providers like Azure, Entra, Okta, or dozens of others. You can manage the security experience for your users and add them to teams and create teams that match up to your existing security groups. The admin console also provides dozens of reports for compliance and monitoring security. The next thing that I want to talk about is the node structure. So with this architecture, it's going to provide your admins with a way to organize users into distinct groupings, similar to organizational units in Active Directory. The administrator can create nodes based on location, department, division, or any other structure. Therefore matching up to your organizational structure is simple. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the single sign-on integration for Entra, Azure, and Okta. So you can see this Okta node. I'm going to go ahead to the provisioning section. There's the single sign-on connection, the SCIM provisioning. And what this will do is bring your users and Okta push groups over. Your Okta push groups will become teams within Keeper. And then looking at Azure, you can see that the setup is Entra Azure. The setup is very similar. Single sign-on, SCIM provisioning. Your Entra security groups will become teams within Keeper as well. And so the goal behind this was to reduce your administrative overhead, to give you more full control over the system. And the setup process for this is simple. It's roughly about 30 minutes. And we do support integrating with any SAML 2.0 identity provider. The next thing that we want to talk about is roles. So the goal here is to give your administrators the ability to enforce your security posture and adapt to the needs of your organization. So I'm just going to briefly pop up these enforcement policies, and we'll talk about passwordless authentication, the biometrics. So you can see we have iOS Touch ID, Face ID options, Mac Touch ID, Android biometrics, Windows Hello. On the two-factor authentication front, we could enforce two-factor. We could determine what amount or how often that two-factor is enforced with different flavors of the platform. I also have control over which multi-factor authentication methods are allowed. So security keys, anything that uses the FIDO2 standard. We do support TOTP, have smartwatch multi-factor authentication, and then SMS text messaging, and we have integrations with RSA and Duo. Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about credential sharing, credential and file sharing. So with Keeper, we have the ability to set you up with a top-down sharing model where you control everything from the top down, or you can implement a more diplomatic sharing structure. So your security groups, when you're actually executing the shares for ease of use, your security groups from within Azure Entra can be linked to shared folders. And so those, you can see all the teams right here. Those would represent your security groups from Azure Entra. Active Directory or Okta push groups can also be linked to the shared folders for the purposes of sharing. So effectively, your identity provider is managing the membership of that shared folder for you. And then coming down here, talking about file sharing, you see I've got some file uploads in here. When you upload files into a record, those files are fully encrypted as part of the record. And this is going to be a really simple, phone book type of share. Give them can edit, can view permissions, or if I change ownership, that would literally transfer the files from my vault into another vault. So those options are all on the table. And then the dark web monitoring is the next item that we wanted to cover. So with the dark web monitoring, we're going to notify you when credentials are compromised out on the dark web. And as you can see, the end user gets notifications of that in addition to the administrator, right? And then the next item I want to cover is reporting and alerts. So with reporting and alerts, we're tracking roughly 180 plus security events in the system. And with this, you have all the capabilities that you would expect. So having the ability to filter by the timeline, what users do we want to get data from, what vaults do we want to get data from, and then we can track events like open record, filled record, breach watch record. And I can isolate these reports down to a specific record ID if I want to track all the activity of a record, or if I want to track all the activity within a shared folder, which is a common use case. And then the next item I want to talk about is alerts, real-time alerts. You're going to have the same 180 plus events, and you can see we have them nicely categorized. Same 180 plus events available for real-time alerts. And you can send those to your email address, to a text message, or to a Slack or Teams channel using a webhook. We have strong documentation on that to make it easy to set up as well. And then we can push your security events to a SIM provider. You can see all the most popular SIM providers listed here: Azure, Datadog, Elastic, Splunk, and so on. Any SIM provider that supports a syslog push will be able to send the data to. The data goes out securely using a TLS tunnel. And then the next thing we want to do, let's go ahead and switch gears. We're going to start talking about the secrets manager. And the first thing I want to talk about is the password rotation. So with this platform, essentially, you'll have the ability to rotate passwords fully automated, and that will be service accounts, Active Directory accounts, databases, local machines. That's all supported. We can also stop and restart services as part of the automation, and you'll get some strong attestation reports for compliance if you need them. So, and we do rotations within the local network, within Azure, within AWS. We are starting to get into software as a service accounts, rotating credentials through APIs. In addition to passwords, we can rotate SSH keys. And in lieu of that, I did want to show you an example of the rotation record and some options for configuring that. So these are the password rotation settings. I can rotate on demand, on a schedule, daily, weekly, monthly, or off business hours, 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, that type of thing. What kind of entropy do I want to generate? So once I have all my settings in place, basically I can rotate that password. The current password ends in 3D, so we'll go ahead and get that rotated. And that did give us a new password. So that's password rotation, and every credential can be on its own schedule. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is protecting your DevOps environments. So getting into these integrations, we want to protect your DevOps environments from secret sprawl. So that would be your privileged credentials, your database credentials, API keys, can be tokenized within these various CI/CD environments. And the integrations that we have available there are the most popular CI/CD offerings: Ansible, Jenkins, GitHub, and then also containerized offerings like Docker and Kubernetes. With each use case, the setup process is only going to be about 15 to 30 minutes, and that's going to be a common theme with the secrets manager. With the password rotations that we just talked about, typically those are 15 to 30 minutes to set up as well, which is very refreshing, we've been told by our clients. And then the SDKs that we have available for this platform are some of the more popular languages that you would expect. So Java, Kotlin, JavaScript, Python, .NET, and Golang. And again, the setup process for these is the same, roughly 15 to 30 minutes. The next thing that I want to show you is the connection manager. So if we'll go ahead and bring up the connection manager portal. And this is a method to grant privileged access without exposing the username and password or the username and the PEM key. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into this RDP session. You'll notice that I don't need the username and password. I just get right in very quickly and easily. Now, with this system, we have full chain of custody on the connections, and we can make things more secure by isolating or air gapping this connection, meaning that your users would only be able to access remote desktop connections from the connection manager. So that gives you a superior security posture. And then, I could add connections if I wanted to. So an SSH session, a database session, as well a local machine session. So very quick and easy for me to get logged in, to switch back and forth between sessions. And then your clipboard is going to behave as per normal. File uploads will be drag and drop. You do have control in the session as to whether you want them to be able to copy paste. So there's a lot baked into this. And then the next thing that I wanted to show you is the capability to memorialize these sessions to have the full chain of custody over everything that's happening. So let me just exit these sessions really quick, and then we'll get to the admin side of things. So within your connection history, we can see who logged in, what was the date and the time, how long were they in the session, and what session did they get in. And then we have the recording, so I can view everything that happened while that session was active. So this is the video recording. Again, we do support transcription, so you could see a transcript of all the commands that were entered in during a session if you like as well. So if you're setting up a new connection, these are all native sessions. So basically for a new connection, I would just select the protocol. So that's remote desktop, SSH, Telnet, VNC, Kubernetes. On the database side, MS SQL, MySQL, and Postgres. And then we also have the capability to import connections from a CSV if you have hundreds of connections to configure, in addition to an API connector that you could push connection information to. So there's a lot of options to get this configured. And again, because these are native sessions, it's agentless. There's nothing to install on the machines that you're connecting to. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about with this is, so we showed the 8 protocols that we have support for. We have added a 9th protocol, which is HTTP, HTTPS. And what that would allow you to do is connect to web-based sessions with a username and password that the user never sees. So it'll automatically fill in the username and password into a web-based session. And that gives you control over the session so that you can record it similar to these other sessions. So that opens up tens of thousands of possibilities for controlling remote sessions over the web. And then the last two items that I wanted to show is our import process. So with the imports, those are rather robust. We do support imports from all the popular browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Edge, and Opera. And then other password managers, imports from JSON and CSV. And then another item that we have that's extremely popular is our family plan. So every business user is going to get a free family plan, and that includes a license with 5 vaults, and those are for personal use. So at a minimum, your business users will have their own vault that they can store their personal credentials in, and it's a way to distinguish the personal credentials from the business credentials, and those accounts are completely separate. Also, you see the ability to switch accounts to toggle between those vaults right here. So again, that is a very popular feature, and anyways, that's the platform in a nutshell. Feel free to reach out with any questions.
Okay. Well, that was an awesome interview. An awesome overview, Travis. Really good information. I love seeing the demos and how the product works in the real world. And now we've got the first poll question of the event, or the first one for this. We appreciate your answers on what additional information you would like from Keeper. You presented a lot of good stuff. I imagine many of you are interested in knowing more about the solution. Now, we also have a great handout from Keeper in the form of a PDF. As just mentioned at the beginning, that is in a handout section. Now, this PDF is a Keeper PAM data sheet, and you really should download it while we go through the questions. So I think right now, Travis is ready to go. Travis, are you there?
Yes, Keith. Thanks for having me.
Right. Okay, so we have a lot of great questions coming in following your presentation. So people are keenly interested in Keeper, and we've got some really good things here. So, first question up. Muhammad wants to know how does IAM, Identity and Access Management, contribute to a zero trust security model, and what are the key principles of zero trust? So not a Keeper directly, but certainly an issue that people are interested in.
So the identity and access management. So Keeper applies zero trust principles, basically through the use of role-based access controls, least privileged access, two-factor authentication, and so essentially that's going to allow the administrator to have top level control for that zero trust application, right? And I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with that. I mean, that's certainly that's a very large question. I don't think we have time
Right.
to go into it at a very high level, but
Sure.
but yeah, I mean, essentially the admin will always be able to make sure that's implemented according to their security posture, and you can adapt as necessary. So it's always going to be up to the admin at the end of the day.
And the standard disclaimer for zero trust always applies, in that zero trust is not a product. It's more of a mindset, a series of processes for doing security is worth mentioning, I think, there. So, all right, next question for you, Travis. Can you set sharing permissions to folders, or do those settings encompass the whole environment?
Yes, you can set sharing permissions to folders, and also with Keeper, some of the identity providers that we integrate with will use skim provisioning. So the advantage of that is when we're again talking about giving access to shared folders, you can actually have let's say your security groups from Azure Entra brought over to the system. Those can be linked to the shared folders. So in effect, your identity provider is managing the membership of those shared folders for you. So obviously, you always do have the option of adding individuals to the shared folders, but yeah, down to the shared folder level, you can implement the sharing. You can also do reporting at the shared folder level.
Great. I love that granularity. I want to remind everyone that the poll question is still up and we're going to keep it up for a while longer. So make sure you continue to vote in that about additional information you'd like from Keeper. Okay, next question, Travis. Is there a way to share the access where the temporary user can use the password but not see it?
So when we're talking about a temporary user, I assume that's a one-time share. So a one-time share it's a read-only sharing mechanism, and that would be the case where somebody does not have a vault. So in the cases where someone doesn't have a vault, you have to give them read-only access because they don't have a browser extension. However, in cases where they do have a Keeper vault, you are able to conceal the password. It's what we call privacy screen. So privacy screen can be enabled at the team level, or it can be enabled at the domain level. And that will prevent the user from exposing the password or copying it to the clipboard, but you do need a Keeper vault within the tenant to do that.
Okay, great. Thanks for explaining that. Okay, up next we have a nice specific question. I always like these. How does the timer work for self-destructing records?
The timer, basically, you're going to set the timer at a 5-minute level. It's going to be either 5 minutes or let me actually get. That's a new feature. You threw me up
Okay.
on a loop on that.
Well, we can also, yeah, they can also check out the website and get that specific information for that as well. Okay, here's one that sounds like it's coming
Yeah.
from someone a little more old school. Does Keeper PAM, Keeper, the privileged access management that you've been talking about, does it replace the need for a VPN? Really important question here.
Well, contextually, that depends on how you're connecting with the service. So basically, we have connections for remote sessions, which would be remote desktop, SSH, Telnet, VNC, Kubernetes, MySQL, MSSQL, Postgres, and HTTP, etc. So basically, if you're needing to make those remote connections, then Keeper's Connection Manager can act as a VPN replacement in those scenarios. And many businesses consider those to be more secure because you're limiting their access to those conduits, to those connections, and air gapping those connections explicitly down.
Okay, great. All right, I think we got time for a couple of more here, Travis. Next up, attendee wants to know, is this an on-premises solution? And I might broaden that just to say, okay, how is this solution offered in what sort of ways?
So the solution, there's ways of looking at that, and it's a SaaS solution in terms of the way that the data is stored. But what is stored on the Keeper side is ciphertext. So there are basically the way that people will look at it is everything is getting decrypted exclusively on the client's devices. So all the encryption keys that allow the data to be encrypted or decrypted are held exclusively on the client side. So when you're looking at it through that lens, our clients view it as being, fully under their control, and it's not a competing solution with on-prem. We're really just adding a layer of security to your on-prem, and you have the ability to do things like add IP address whitelists, which would restrict your users to only logging into Keeper on-prem on those specific networks. So again, I don't want to go too deep into a rabbit hole on that, but there are on-prem components that you can do as well. So if you want to set up ADFS to have your users authenticate with an on-prem server, so ADFS using our Keeper bridge for provisioning, all the components that are provisioning and authenticating your users would be on-prem.
Okay, great. Thank you. Finally, before we let you go, Travis, if someone wants to take the next step with Keeper Security right after this event, say, what would you recommend they do?
Yeah, just schedule a demo. We're very casual about it. It's not salesy. We'll follow your lead and just make sure that we address your concerns, and we always make sure that it's a very positive experience. So a demo is highly recommended, and we can roll through. Even if you wanted to do a proof of concept, we can get through those fairly quickly as well.
All right, fantastic, fantastic options here. So, Travis, I want to thank you for your time today, for your insights in the Q&A, for updating us on what Keeper Security is doing. It's always an innovative, forward-looking company, and I appreciate your time today very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Likewise, Keith.
All right, everyone. So what we need to do next is give away a gift card. We have got our first $300 Amazon gift card to hand out. And the winner of this first one is Michael Jackson from Texas. Congratulations to you, Michael. I need to ask you this. Is it thrilling for you to have won the gift card, Michael Jackson? Was it as easy as ABC 1, 2, 3 to get that gift card? Yes? Okay. We will be in touch very soon about claiming your prize. So now, Michael, just beat it, okay? All right, everyone, let us move along here. Enough nonsense from me and my slightly warped brain here. Let's get to the next session. What do you say? Oh, I also wanted to mention that any questions that didn't get answered, and there's a bunch of them for Keeper today, that the company will be following up on, so sit tight and have no fear. And with that, I'd like to introduce Shane Allen from Rubrik. Shane is a senior platform solutions architect, and he is here to do the final presentation in this briefer EcoCast today. And glad to have Shane here. He's always got some great stuff ready. So I am going to turn this over to you, Shane. You have the mic.
Thank you. In this presentation and short demonstration, we'll be going over protecting Active Directory with Rubrik Security Cloud. Let's start with a brief Active Directory overview. Microsoft Active Directory and Microsoft Intra ID provide employees with the access to everything from external resources like Microsoft 365 to internal resources like your corporate intranet. These critical services unify authentication and access control, verifying that each person is who they claim to be while ensuring they only have access to the data they're allowed to use. The data within these services are also an essential prerequisite when recovering key applications from operational failures and cyber attacks. If Active Directory is compromised and no longer reachable, none of your services are reachable and your business is at a standstill. Let's face it, Active Directory are the keys to the kingdom. 80% of cyber attacks involve identity-based techniques to avoid detection at different stages of an attack. And it takes attackers less than a day, approximately 16 hours, to reach and compromise Active Directory. And unfortunately for most companies, based on the anatomy of a cyber attack, they're only able to detect an attack after all the different stages have been completed by the bad actors and data has been encrypted. And why the need for Active Directory protection? Again, 80% of modern attacks are identity driven. If you cannot trust your source environment, how can you restore Active Directory environment to a new OS without reinfection? And accidents happen. Users and groups can be easily deleted. How can you restore them quickly? How can you ensure that when you restore a user, all its subsequent relationships are restored as well? Think about some other questions. Are you preparing for defending at the Active Directory user level? In the event all Active Directory controllers are compromised, are you able to restore the entire Active Directory from scratch? How many different point solutions does it take to protect your entire environment? This is why traditional Active Directory protection approaches tend to fall short. They're complex, they take multiple days without proper backups, none of the users can access any resources until AD is restored, which results in business downtime, Recovering AD objects with attributes and cross relationships with other AD objects is a complex operation and takes a longer time. And the good old Microsoft AD Recycle Bin supports restores of soft deletes, but not the permanent deletions that are common in a security breach. So let's talk about securing Active Directory with Rubrik Security Cloud. It all begins with auto discovery. Simply point one of your domain controllers to Rubrik Security Cloud, and Rubrik will automatically discover and inventory all other DCs within your environment. Aside from simply discovering the domain controllers, Rubrik will also discover their associated FSMA roles, along with any crucial services they may be running, such as DHCP, DNS, allowing organizations to quickly see what domain controller is providing what services. From there, it is simple as assigning a global SLA, which can be assigned to the domain controllers, providing individual granular protection to individual domain controllers. Once an SLA domain has been assigned, Rubrik will automatically schedule and perform backups adhering to the constructs defined, utilizing Microsoft best practices and WP admin to perform the actual backups. When it comes time to recover, there are a couple different options. First, you can recover your entire domain controllers. This can be done in a few different ways. First, you can recover back to the original domain controller. This is a fast and efficient way to simply roll back a domain controller to a point-in-time backup. If the domain controller cannot be trusted, then there are options to recover to a completely brand new host as well. You can recover easily to a new domain controller containing similar hardware. This is useful for organizations that have a gold template or image they use. They can simply create a new instance of that gold image and initiate the domain controller recovery to it. And finally, Rubrik can recover your domain controller to an entirely different bare metal host as well. Utilizing Windows recovery environments, customers can bring up a new host with the similar hardware and initiate the domain restore to it. With all that said, often we don't necessarily recover an entire domain controller. If we accidentally delete a user or notice a group has been deleted, we can simply recover those individual objects rather than go through the time-consuming process of recovering an entire domain. On top of recovering individual objects, Rubrik will restore their associated relationships with other objects, so you can ensure that a recovered user has the same group memberships as they did when they were initially backed up. Let's go back to this anatomy of a cyber attack slide. As I said, most organizations are only able to detect an attack after data has been encrypted. Rubrik customers for many years have been able to detect any encrypted data and been able to determine the blast radius of that data within their environments. Now with Rubrik's Active Directory protection, Rubrik customers can now move down that kill chain and detect elevated permissions within their environment by using the metadata from their Active Directory backups. Let me show you real quick. Metadata from our Active Directory backups feed our user access feature. Why do we do this? Because DLP systems can be bypassed. User and entity behavior analytics is very heavy. With this metadata, Rubrik will help you understand where your data really is and who has access to it. Understand your data risk and mitigate it. Prioritize lists. Track changes over time, track risk over time, and be able to remediate quickly, and have a complete track of user activity relative to sensitive data within your organization. And of course, all this happens on the backup data. There is no impact to production. Let's go over how Rubrik Security Cloud Active Directory Protection works before we go into a quick demonstration. Onboarding is simple. Install the Rubrik backup service on your domain controllers and add them as a Windows host to Rubrik Security Cloud. Next, within Rubrik Security Cloud, you must specify the SMB settings to add the on-prem Rubrik Data Vault to the domain being protected. Once added, Rubrik Security Cloud will automatically discover common services, DNS, DHCP, and FSMA roles, Schema Master, Domain Naming Master, Infrastructure Master, etc. Then an SLA domain can be assigned to the domain controllers. Onboarding and backup are quite simple. First, you have your domain controllers, Rubrik Security Cloud, and an on-premise Rubrik Data Vault. It all begins with Adding the Windows host to Rubrik Security Cloud that contain an Active Directory. Rubrik Security Cloud discovers the additional domain controllers and inventories them. SLAs are assigned to each domain controller. With backups, a secure SMBv3 share is created, discovered, and opened. WBadmin is utilized to write an app consistent backup. And then the SMBv3 share is closed and the VHDX is converted to a patch file. The indexing of our Active Directory backups, we are able to create user metadata indexes that enable querying of user group memberships without the need for production access. The domain controller is backed up to Rubrik Data Vault. The Rubrik Data Vault stores the snapshot with its immutable file system. The snapshot's indexed. UMD is created and stored alongside the snapshot. The UMD is uploaded to Rubrik Security Cloud, and the user access service queries UMD to resolve SIDs to objects. Okay, that was a quick overview for the onboarding and backup, and how we create the UMD for user access from the Active Directory backups. Here are the restore options. For domain level recoveries, we have basically 3 of them: in-place recovery, alternate host recovery, and bare metal recovery. And we can also do object level recovery. And for the use case examples, for in-place recovery, maybe your OS is corrupted, or maybe you had mass object deletion. For alternate host recovery, that's good for recovery from a cyber attack or disaster recovery. Or bare metal recovery, that's basically when you maybe have a physical domain controller recovery, or virtual to physical recovery, or disaster recovery. And for object level recovery, that's always the case for accidental deletion, malicious deletion, or the occasional rogue script that went away from somebody and deleted a whole bunch of objects. Let's go over the 3 different domain recovery options. In-place recovery, the SMBv3 share is discovered and exposed via live mount. The host restart in recovery mode and restore is initiated, and the live mount is removed and the host is rebooted. For the alternate host recovery, a new Windows host with similar OS hardware and RBS is added to Rubrik Security Cloud. The SMBv3 share is discovered and exposed to the host. The host is restarted in recovery mode, restore initiated, and live mount removed. And for restore bare metal, the SMBv3 share is discovered and exposed via a given IP, secured with custom credentials. And here, the VM or physical system boots into a Windows recovery environment. The path to the share is provided, and then the restore is initiated from the Windows recovery environment, the host is rebooted, and the live mount is removed. With 80 object level recovery, the first step is Rubrik Security Cloud calls Rubrik Data Vault APIs to browse the snapshot. The metadata containing objects within the snapshot is sent to Rubrik Security Cloud. The user selects the desired objects to recover. The snapshot is mounted to the domain controller via SMBv3 live mount. The NTDS database within the snapshot is open and the LDAP session is established. Desired objects are restored. The LDAP session is closed and the snapshot is unmounted. And the metadata on the Rubrik Security Cloud is purged. So maybe you have a use case where the OS is infected and can't be trusted. Remember, with Rubrik's Active Directory backups, the backups are completed at the domain level, not the host level. Domain level backups can be restored to new host. If a cyber attack occurs, often the original host can't be trusted, so the restore workflow is deploy a new VM or physical host with simpler hardware, install the Rubrik backup service, add the host to Rubrik Security Cloud, restore the domain to an alternate host, selecting the newly added host. No need to restore infected operating system files. All right, enough for the slides. Let me show you a Rubrik Security Cloud Active Directory Protection demo. I think you'll like it. Okay, before I start the demo, go ahead and get out your phones and scan this QR code. It will take you to the click-through demo that I'm using for this Rubrik Security Cloud Active Directory demonstration. At the end of this webinar, we'll also provide you the URLs for the reference materials and also this click-through demo you can share with your colleagues. Okay, onboarding Active Directory to Rubrik Security Cloud. First, click Next on the Rubrik privacy policy. And we will go through the different steps of onboarding Active Directory to Rubrik Security Cloud. It starts with click on Manage Domain Controllers. Here's where we will add the Windows hosts that are domain controllers within your environment. Select the Rubrik Data Vault, they'll be associated with, and then whether you've installed the backup service or need to install it, and then put in the fully qualified domain name or IP address of the domain controller. Click Add. It's that simple. From here, you'll see the Windows host added. When you click on Back to Data Protection, you will see that the Active Directory domain has been discovered, but you need to configure SMB settings for the Rubrik Data Vault in your on-premise data center. Using a user account that can create computer objects, add the Rubrik Data Vault to Rubrik Security Cloud and click Authenticate. That's it, one-time operation. Now you'll see that the domain has been added to Rubrik Security Cloud. That's it. Let's assign an SLA to the different domain controllers. So an SLA basically defines the frequency and retention of the backups. So click on the domain. Here we only have one domain controller. Click on Manage Protection and assign the bronze SLA domain. That's all you have to do is click Next. We'll automatically assign the SLA domain to that domain, and we're done. And you can see here in the left-hand corner, the silver SLA domain has been assigned. Now, let's go through some restore options. In-place recovery of original domain controller. So go in, select the domain controller, click on it, open up the calendar view for the domain controller, click on the date you want to recover from, click Recover. Select Restore to original domain controller, click Next. By default, we do a non-authoritative. Since this is we have one domain controller here, select Advanced Options. And there are some acknowledgements we have to check to proceed. Click Next. And click Recover. And again, those recovery steps we went through previously. They'll be in the Events page right here. So if we want to recover to similar hardware now, very similar operation. Click Next, click on Recover here, and then click on Restore to alternate host, providing the alternate host IP address. Click Next, same acknowledgements, and then click Next here, and recover. It's that simple. And again, you can watch it in the Events page. Now, if you want to do a bare metal recovery, a couple added steps here. So select the bare metal recovery. Click Next. A bare metal recovery, this is the Windows recovery environment that's been started. This is how you're authenticating the SMB share to the Windows recovery environment. Username, password, and IP ACL. Click Next. We're going to live mount the SMB share to that Windows recovery environment. Now let's switch that Windows recovery environment, continue to restore there. Click Next here. Click on Continue, or Troubleshoot, sorry. System image recovery. Then click Next. You'll have to play with the mouse during this click-through environment for the Windows PE section, or Windows RE section, sorry. Click on Advanced. Click on Search. And this will put in the path from that SMBv3 live mount. Provide the username or password. And then click Next. Again, you might have to play with the mouse to click on Next. And click Yes. And the Windows recovery environment has begun the bare metal recovery process. Click Next. That's how easy it is to do a bare metal recovery. Now let's take an object level recovery. Scroll down to the bottom of the menu here. Click on Recovering Individual AD Objects. Click Next. Click on the domain. Go to the date and time you want to recover objects from. And then click Recover. And for here, select Granular Recovery, and then click Next. You see the date and time that the snapshot was taken of your Active Directory domain. Expand the domain. Go down to the OU you want to recover objects from. Select it. Select the object. and click Next. And here, there's some options for those objects. Whether you're recovering containers or just the missing objects. Gives you options. And click Next here. You can also recover the password or don't recover the password. And then click Next. And hit Recover. You can see the recovery process has begun. And you can go to the events page here and watch the recovery process. And that completes the short demonstration of the onboarding recovery operations for Rubrik's Active Directory backups. To recap, let's go over a few of the Rubrik Security Cloud Active Directory protection benefits. Data resilience, a SaaS solution for on-prem AD objects, users, and groups, protection against security breaches and accidental deletion, support for crucial Rubrik Security Cloud security capabilities such as air gapping, immutability, encryption, replication, retention lock, RBAC, and archival, and support for user activity monitoring and user access analysis, data recovery, recovery AD through simple search, recursive recovery missing parent objects, recursive recovery missing objects with attributes, and recovery AD as part of a ransomware recovery process, and Rubrik simplicity. SLA domain policy-based approach eliminates need for configuration of multiple jobs, tasks, and you can leverage the simplicity and unified interface of Rubrik Security Cloud with no storage to configure, no external tools to run. And here are some references used in today's webinar. A blog about defending the heart of your infrastructure, Microsoft Active Directory. A datasheet for Rubrik for Microsoft Active Directory and Microsoft Entra ID. And a web page covering Rubrik User Access Analysis. I hope you have enjoyed this webinar about Rubrik's Microsoft Active Directory protection. Have a great day. Thank you.
And thank you, Shane, for that presentation. Awesome stuff. I love the demo. And everything that you're showing there, the integration with Microsoft Active Directory is just crucial these days. So thank you so much for being here and for enlightening us about the Rubrik Security Cloud. Hope lots of folks, I think, are looking into that nowadays. And it is now time for our last poll of the event. Let us know about any additional information you would like about the Rubrik solutions. Now, it looks like we had a lot of questions that we can't get to right now, unfortunately. But Rubrik will do their level best to respond to all the questions that came in. While you're voting in that poll, I also want to remind everyone about the handouts. We have a PDF from Rubrik that discusses how Rubrik works with Microsoft ID services, the chief one being Active Directory. So make sure to check that out for more detail. And I'm going to leave the poll up just for another minute or two while I give away the last two $300 Amazon gift cards for the event. Those gift cards are going to Jason Colvard from Colorado and Pratik Savla from California. And congrats to all of our winners today. We will be in touch ASAP to get you your prizes, so sit tight and wait to hear from us. So, there we go. And I can skip that one and go to this one. Now, if you found this EcoCast fun and informative, know that we can do the same kind of thing for your product or service. Contact us at that address you see on the screen, connect@actualtechmedia.com, and we will get you more details and see which events or maybe even a custom event will be the best fit for you. We do hundreds of them every year and would be happy to talk to you about doing one for yourself. Now, speaking of security, we also have another security-focused event, another EcoCast, in fact, coming up next Tuesday, May 21st. It is about using automation to increase your security posture. This event starts at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. If that looks good to you, sign up right after this event ends. which is right now, folks. We are just about out of here. On behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Keeper Security and Rubrik for making this event possible. And again, I want to thank our speakers who were truly outstanding today. And I want to thank all of you attendees for being here on this EcoCast and for all of your great questions. That concludes the event. Have a great rest of your day, folks. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.